So now we're going to be transitioning over to my thoughts concerning the 4-night crossover event consisting of The Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and a bit of a crossover with Supergirl, which had aired previously on CBS and now has moved over to the CW. Now, they actually aired this crossover event just about a couple weeks ago, and like I said, I haven't really gotten around to make a discussion video on it, but it's not going to be so much of an in-depth analysis on it since there won't be any spoilers, I could guarantee you at that. But just kind of give out just my thoughts on what I just saw from that 4-night crossover event. And overall, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the crossover. It's just very cool to see all these characters just all come together from different shows. And yeah, so this is the third crossover event in the Arrowverse. And the first one they did, I believe, was back in 2014 when they premiered The Flash, and we had Barry Allen crossing over from being introduced from the Green Arrow series and serving as sort of a backdoor pilot for The Flash. And there were a couple occasions, especially when The Flash had premiered, that we would see special guest stars from characters from other spin-off shows, specifically Arrow. So you would have like Barry Allen crossing over to Arrow, and then you would have Oliver and the gang also crossing over to the Flash as well. So it's kind of back and forth. This is the third crossover event, like I said, and this also includes Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl, which is an entirely different universe from the other three TV shows. I mean, going into it, I mean, this had been a big anticipation since early this year, and there have been talks on whether Supergirl would go over to the CW, and the ratings, I believe, on CBS weren't doing too well, but the CW had managed to snatch Supergirl over to their network. That pretty much raised the chances of having a 4-night crossover event at an all-time high. Basically, there's a group of aliens that are trying to take over the Earth. They're called the Dominators, to be specific. When during the advertisements, they said that it was going to start with Supergirl, but falsified the viewers into thinking that it would start with that event or with that particular TV show. Although they kind of started to segue or started to plant the seeds of it around the ending of Legends of Tomorrow, just about the week before Thanksgiving, since it airs on Thursday. So they got a distress signal that something was happening in 2016 and that they have to go back in time. So that's pretty much how it sort of started, with that scene alone, especially before the episode ended. So Supergirl had already aired its mid-season finale just a week before Arrow, Flash, and Legends had aired theirs just about a week after the crossover event. So it was kind of a very questionable timing of sorts. So Supergirl aired its mid-season finale, so you didn't really see any real big crossover with the Flash, coming back until like the very end of that episode. Watching that episode, there were some people that did expect it to, have Barry Allen show up at the end of the scene. So, but even regardless, I just kind of felt maybe it might have been a missed opportunity just to see the Flash come back and maybe help Kara out along with her team. But that didn't happen. I just thought it would have been cool just to see, Flash and Superman together and kicking all sorts of ass. Especially now that they got Superman into the Supergirl universe. I mean, I haven't really watched a whole lot of Supergirl, to be honest, but I've just watched a handful of episodes here and there. It's kind of taken me a while to really try to adjust to the tone of the show. Because I watched when the Barry guest starred the first time around in the first season. And so it was really cool to see their dynamic, just really to see how they coexist and seeing how their personalities intersect, just to kind of describe it that. I haven't really watched a whole lot of Supergirl, to be honest, so I can't really go into more details I would like to do so, but I've just kind of watched some of the recent episodes, especially since I've heard that Superman was going to be introduced in the series, especially with Clark Kent. There are some things I liked about it, because Supergirl is an entirely different universe since it had already aired on another channel, so they weren't able to kind of really have them set in the same universe like the other three shows. So I think they should have just called it a 3 night crossover event. Um, so that was just kind of weird the way they advertised it. I thought it was cool just to see all these, especially all these characters from different TV shows just cross paths, which is kind of what you expect for a crossover. Just kind of give that, oh my god, it's like my favorite characters just all banding together, and now they're gonna stop this villainous faction from doing such and such to our home turf, or that sort of thing. So I think my favorite has to be from the Arrow 100th episode, and just to see all these characters from Arrow, just especially some of the characters that have already been deceased, like Oliver's mother, Mora, seeing them again, and especially their parents, not just Mora, but also Oliver's father as well. Um, Even some of the past villains as well, seeing Malcolm Merlin as the Dark Archer, uh, Damien Dark, uh, Deathstroke, Slade Wilson. I was actually surprised that Ra's al Ghul wasn't even in there. I mean, unless I missed something, but I've watched that episode, and I was surprised I didn't even see him or the League of Assassins, or I don't think Nissa was on there. I mean, considering her connection with Sarah and their relationship, but yeah, I actually thought they really pull out all the stops for that Arrow 100 episode, which is kind of the key highlight of the 4 night crossover event, which I thought was pretty cool. Oliver and his team are kind of trapped in this sort of spaceship pod, and they're kind of. I don't know if anyone watches that episode Supernatural, and I think it was that episode where Dean ends up Dean ends up going unconscious because of this Degen urban legend creature that sends Dean into another reality where just to see how his life is like if his mother was alive, and if he and his brother Sam hadn't gone hunting and stuff. Both of them are very similar because those episodes were influenced with the Christmas movie It's a Wonderful Life. So just kind of one of those alternate realities, those what ifs, had such and such happen, if Oliver's parents was alive, if Oliver hadn't became the Green Arrow, and if Oliver was just kind of like an everyday person, just living a normal life along with his sister Thea, and even like some of the other former Arrow characters, like Ray Palmer, for instance, or Sarah, since they're both part of a different team now, but they were part of the Arrow cast before they ended up going time traveling and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed that particular highlight of the crossover event, and it's just really cool stuff to see. Although, I mean, it's also kind of peculiar as well because Arrow, unlike Legends, unlike The Flash, and even unlike Supergirl, Arrow's kind of more of a procedural crime drama mixed in with superhero elements because Green Arrow doesn't really have any sort of supernatural powers like Kara does in her show, or Barry Allen on The Flash, or even with Legends of Tomorrow, even though you would have you would have Firestorm, who also has his ability to control fire, and just the emphasis on the sci-fi elements having to go through different time periods. It was just kind of very weird just to see, especially with Arrow, especially with being trapped in this spaceship because of these aliens taking over, even though Oliver has barely dealt with anything supernatural related, unless it was like Damien Dark or something. But other than that, there was not really so much about Arrow that kind of screams sci-fi, at least not to the extent of Supergirl, The Flash, or even Legends of Tomorrow to a certain degree. But nevertheless, I thought that was actually a really cool episode just to see some of the old cast members come back. The Flash, I actually thought that was pretty cool too. I think they really stepped their game up. I mean, because the previous crossover event, like you had so many characters, and some of them just had very little to no screen time. I remember like Malcolm Merlin showed up in one scene, The Flash, and then he never shows up until the next show. Like there's always shifting storyline directions to something else because in the last year, the Flash, even though they were focusing on Hawk Girl and being kidnapped by Vandal Savage, they also had they ended up focusing once. They like had another subplot which had nothing to do with the actual crossover event. Especially with the Flash, they had to deal with Jay Garrett, who came from another Earth reality in the Flash. So he had to stay put, especially since Barry and the gang ended up going to Star City. So it was up to Jay Garrick to protect Central City from any outside threats. So they focus kind of half and half on different things, and Jay Garrick gets severely injured during battle, and they had to inject some Velocity 9 just to kind of heal his wounds, which kind of really felt a little out of place, especially for those that, for viewers that are tuning in that probably don't watch any of those shows. Like, there's 4 spin-off shows as of the moment, so you couldn't really guarantee that certain viewers watch all the shows that are included in the Arrowverse. Maybe, for instance, you could probably watch The Flash every week, but not watch Arrow, or vice versa. Maybe this viewer watches Arrow but doesn't watch The Flash. Or in this case with Legends and Supergirl, maybe they just watch 1 or 2 shows and not watch the other half. Those sort of examples, I mean, so I think that kind of felt, like I said, very out of place, especially for viewers that probably don't watch a certain show on a regular basis. So that might be pretty difficult to keep up with the storyline. So maybe they didn't. So I think they kind of learned in a way this year, because with the Flash, it didn't really felt like a Flash episode. It's just basically an all-out crossover event, like an all-out movie, as opposed to just being strictly for each of those shows. But you did still see characters from the Flash, like Iris and Dr. Wells, and Iris's father Joe, for instance. So yeah, you see like certain characters that are exclusive on one of those shows. The Flash really kind of officially started with the crossover, even though Legends of Tomorrow kind of planted the seeds of the crossover event to take place. Yeah, I really like Barry and Oliver's partnership. That's really coming off very natural. Just seeing them team up, and even trying to fend off some of their friends who were mind controlled with, Supergirl and the Legends. I don't know if Diggle got brainwashed as well. I think they might have, Diggle and Thea. I thought that was pretty cool just to see Barry and Oliver do some partnership and doing some buddy cop type of action that we've seen. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's just my brief thoughts on the DCTV crossover. I just want to kind of take this opportunity to give out my thoughts on what just happened. If there's any other information that I'm missing, please let me know. I'm trying my best to take as much information as I possibly can and try to remember what I just saw, so my mind might be a little rusty. If there's anything I've been missing, or if there's anything that anyone should clarify to me that I might have been misinformed, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Just tell me what your thoughts on everything that's been going on, especially if for those that are fans of both Power Rangers and any of the 4 DC TV shows that have been airing in recent years. So, yeah. Till then, this is the GSTV viewers signing out.